Hello and welcome to a new video on cryptography for everybody. In today's video, you will learn how to securely store and manage all of your passwords. I personally use KeePass 2 for that purpose, and I think it's a quite good software. It's secure, it's open source, and in my opinion, very easy to use. And in this video, you will learn how to install it and how to create passwords using KeePass 2. And besides storing passwords, you can also store cryptographic keys and other secure data in KeePass 2. So let's start. At first, we have to go to the KeePass website. And when you go to the KeePass website, you have two versions. You have KeePass 1 and KeePass 2. And I prefer KeePass 2. So let's download KeePass 2. After downloading KeePass 2, I just copy this or cut and paste it onto the desktop. And I don't think that we need the web page anymore, so let's close it. Here we have the setup exe file, and let's just start it. We want the English version. Here you can see that KeePass is distributed using the GNU General Public License version 2. We click on Accept the agreement, Next. Then you can choose a folder. I will just keep the KeePass password safe 2 in my program files folder. And the rest is also okay. I want the desktop shortcut. And let's install it. I don't want to launch it now. Now on my desktop, I have the KeePass 2 application symbol. So let's start it. And of course, we want to enable automatic updates. And here is the KeePass application. KeePass is a password database. And the cool thing with KeePass, of course, is that it stores securely your passwords. So the database is encrypted. And it allows you to generate random passwords. And that is quite good since passwords are mostly broken because people use weak passwords, for instance, words that are part of a database or just too short passwords. And KeePass 2 helps you to generate really secure passwords. But before we can generate passwords, we have to create a new file. So I say here file new, and then it tells us that we will create a new database. Let's click on OK. And for our purpose, I think we will just say, this is our test KeePass database on the desktop. Now let's save it. And now you have to choose a very strong master password, because the security of your passwords then relies on that master password. Imagine someone is able to copy that test KeePass database or your database KeePass file. And if you used a very weak password, then of course it can be broken. The password can be cracked. The database can be opened, and then the attacker has all of your passwords. So this master password here has to be very secure. I use one of my default passwords. And it is, I think, a relatively good password. Keep in mind that your security relies on this password. So choose a strong password. Let's press OK. And then we need a name for the database, and this is KeePass test database. Of course, you could choose another name, but I think this is fine. Now let's have a look at security. Our database file will be encrypted using AES with 256-bit, and I think this is a very good cipher. I already made a video about AES on this channel, and I think I will link it below this video. So if you're interested how this AES cipher works, have a look at this video. Then we have a key derivation function, and we have here AES key derivation function, argon2d, argon2d, I think, and I will just keep AES-KDF. And the iteration count here is 60,000. That means when we create a key based on a password, then 60,000 iterations are performed using this key derivation function on our password to generate a key. Let's have a look at compression. Our database will be compressed. I think this is fine. Then we have a recycle bin. I think this is really nice. Imagine you have an account on a website and you deleted that account, and then you have to delete the password entry. But now imagine you deleted the wrong entry. So instead of deleting the entry in your KeePass database, it will be moved to the recycle bin, like it is, for instance, done with files in Windows. So I think this recycle bin is quite nice, so let's keep it. Let's have a look at advanced settings and templates. We don't need templates. The other numbers I think are fine. So let's just click OK. And here we have some recommendations, for instance, changing the master key every n days. My opinion is that you should choose a very, very strong master password or master key, and that doesn't force you to change it on a regular basis. And in my opinion and experience, forcing a user to change a password or a key regularly leads to insecure passwords or keys. So let's press OK here. And oh, this is new. I don't know what this is. We can create an emergency sheet. A KeePass emergency sheet contains all important information that is required to open your database. It should be printed, filled out and stored in a secure location, where only you and possible a few other people that you trust have access to. It is recommended that you create an emergency sheet for your database. Do you want to print an emergency sheet now? I use KeePass now for years. I never had the need of such an emergency sheet. I think for new users this is maybe a good idea, but keep in mind that someone being in possession of the emergency sheet is able to decrypt and open your database. So I will skip this right now. Oh, this is also new. I update KeePass, of course, when there are new versions, but I rarely install the KeePass application on a new machine. And this is really nice. As you can see, we already have sample entries in our database. And I think I will also use these for testing. Okay, what do we have here? I opened the database, and the small star you can see here means we have unchanged or unsaved changes. And with Ctrl S, you can save the database. And that is what I want to do now. I want to close the database and reopen it. Now on my desktop, you can see here, I have the test KeePass database. And when we double click it, it automatically opens the database and it asks for our master password. And that we have to enter right now. And I just add an additional character at the end that you see. When you don't provide the correct password, KeePass fails to open it. But that is what we have expected, because no one who or anyone who does not know the correct password should not be able to open the database. So press OK and let's enter the correct password. And press OK. And now we are back at the database, at the KeePass database. So the database has a nice file system structure, you could say, like your Windows files or drives. You have folders, and then in the folders you have entries like files, and these entries are actual entries for passwords. And what I really like with KeePass, they allow, for instance, that they call these groups here. You can add a new group. Let's say we want to have a group for network, or we already have network, for servers. Then you add the name here, servers. You can change it, and let's have a look if we find a nice icon for this group that looks like a server. I think the shell is nice. And you can also set an expiration date, but I think that we don't need this. You can set some properties here, but I think I want to just create a servers group. Then I don't need home banking because I don't do home banking. And as you can see, I just clicked on the group, pressed the delete button on my keyboard, and then it asks me what I want to do. I don't need Windows, for instance. I press delete and then I say yes. And the nice thing is that it's firstly stored in the recycle bin. And then we can right click on the recycle bin, empty it, and then our deleted groups are gone. Now let's have a look at the actual passwords. And I think... okay. The sample entries are located in the root folder, you could say, or the root group. Let's have a look at such an entry. Let's have a look at the sample entry. You have different ways to open it. You can right click and you can edit it. Then you can open it. Or what I tend to do, I double click on it. Then you can open it. And in that entry, you can change, for instance, the title. So this is a sample entry. Then you can change the username and you can change the password. Keep in mind, passwords, of course, are stored in clear text in the database. They are not stored as a hashed value because then you could not enter it in a web page or in an application you want to log in. That's why you can click on this show hide password here and then you see the password. And in that case, it's a really bad password, so we want to change it. And to change the password, we can generate a password here. And here are different ways for the generation of a password. Let's create a hexadecimal password, a key with 256-bit key strength. And when we click on that, we see here that we get a really, really long password. Let's have a look at this in Notepad. And now imagine you use this password, for instance, for your Amazon or eBay account, and there's a security breach at Amazon or eBay, and someone is able to get the hash values of all the passwords of all the users, for instance. Then I think that this password is really impossible to be broken because it's so long, and actually it has 250 bits strength, so I think this is a very secure password. And I tend to create all my passwords as really huge randomly generated passwords. So even if one of the web pages services has a password breach, someone stole the password database, of course I'm angry because probably other personal data are stolen, but the password cannot be reverted. And also I use a different password using KeePass 2 for all of my web pages. So when I register for a new web page, let's first go on here and then I describe how you register to a new web page. So what else do we have here? We can set it back to a password field. Now you can have here a look at the quality, 250 bits. And I think this is really nice. You can see how strong your password is. Then you can enter a URL. And the URL, for instance, is the URL of the service you want to use. Then you have notes and you can set an expiration date. Now let's press OK. And now let's create a new entry. Let's create a new entry for a server, for instance. You go to the group here, you right click here and you enter add entry. Now let's assume we have a web server. So this is our web server from company A. I don't know. Now we need a username. And I think I will just use my first name as a username. And you can already see that KeePass automatically generated a password for you. And this password here just consists of random lowercase letters, uppercase letters, and so on. But as I said, I tend to use 256 bit keys here. But you can also open the password generator. Let's do this. And we want to have a password with uppercase letters, lowercase letters, digits. We want to have a minus. We want to have special characters. And I think this is fine. then we can go to preview, or we could change or save this as a new profile. Let's name this Niels password profile. Okay. As I said, you can see here the previews, how password looks like you generate. And I think I don't like the length of the password. Let's go to 32 characters. This looks better. And here you have a password. Maybe the backslash and the minus and so on could be a problem on the web. I don't know. So I just remove minus, and I think now it should be better. Where's the pipe? It's in special symbols. I keep it, and I keep the minus. Okay. Now you can see that it automatically generated a new password for us that we can use in a web page. Then we can enter a URL, or you could, for instance, enter the IP address of one of your web servers. Let's assume this is our web server, and then we can add a note, user for the web server of company A. And then you just click on OK. And it generated for you a nice entry with the username, password, and so on. Now, when I want to log in to a web page, I always have KeePass open in the background when I work with servers and so on. I just go to KeePass, and let's assume we have a lot of servers and you want to find the web server. Then you can press Ctrl F for search and just enter web server. And the nice thing is then that KeePass shows you the entries that match your filter or your search query. And now you could just copy, for instance, the username by double click on the username. And what you will see here right now is that the data is copied to the clipboard for 12 seconds. And here on the right, you see the timer. I open Notepad now. And when I now press Ctrl V, there's nothing in the clipboard. Then I go back here, double click on the username, go to Notepad, Ctrl V, I have my username. Then I go back to KeePass, double click the password, go into my application where I have to enter the password, Ctrl V, and it pastes the password. And this is now a really strong password for our web server. Now I think another interesting thing with KeePass is that you cannot only store passwords. So let's create here an entry for our email, for instance. And let's just enter some random things. So my name is Niels. This is Niels at someserver.org. We generate a new password with Niels password profile. And then we have our mail server where we want to use it and some nodes. And then we press OK. We have our email here. But now let's edit again. For instance, I like secure emails, and for secure emails, you need certificates. And of course, a certificate and a key, your private key, should be stored securely on your computer. You can do this by or using KeePass. You go to Advanced here, and then you can add attachments. Let's add a file attachment. But before we add this, we need an example entry. So let's assume we have here our very secure SMIME key. And then in KeePass, you can just click here on attach. You can attach files. You can go to the desktop, for instance, and add your very secure SMIME key. And it automatically detected that this is a text file, but you could also store it as binary. For instance, keys are stored in X509 format, so you would use here binary. And you can press OK. You could also use drag and drop. So we drag the file, and then we go to KeePass, and when you are above the Add Entry and Advanced tab, you can just drop the file. And since I dropped the same file, it asks me if I want to, do you wish to rename the new file or overwrite the attached file? Yes, to rename, and I want to rename it, and it added a 0 at the end. I don't like this, so I delete it. And now we have only the one file here. But you could use this to actually store files in KeePass 2, like cryptographic keys and other important documents that you want to keep safe. Yeah, and this is, I think, everything you need to know to use KeePass. You could now download KeePass and create your own groups here, add all the passwords here. I know it's time consuming to change with every service you use your password, but I think this is for good, since all these generated keys here are really, really secure, and it's nearly impossible to break these passwords. And the only thing you have to keep in your mind is one master password, only one, that secures all your other passwords. And of course, you should store that file on a place where no one else has access. What I do, since I have a very strong password with my KeePass file, I also put it into a cloud storage, and then the cloud storage, or the folder of the cloud storage, is I use these folders on each of my computers. So when I create a new user account on one PC, I have access to this, for instance, on my laptop or on other PCs I own. Yeah, and I think this is everything I wanted to show you concerning KeePass. I hope it helps a little to make your passwords more secure. If you have any questions, just ask below this video. I would be really happy to answer this. Also, if you did not yet subscribe to this channel and you want to see more security related, cryptography related videos, then please subscribe to this channel. This really helps us to grow the channel and to make the Cryptool project more popular. So thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.